I'm Mark Goldbridge, and I'm joined by Fabrizio Romano for the latest Manchester United transfer news. How are you doing, Fabrizio?
Hi, Mark. All good. Thank you. Hi to all Manchester United fans. Thank you again.
Straight away, let's get into it. A lot of people are hoping that this will be the week where we get at least, 3 here we goes. How close are we at the moment to getting one of these deals over the line? Let's start off with Ligt and Mazraoui. Lots of stuff over the weekend. We've seen tweets from yourself. Just how close are they and what's going on?
I don't think it's far, in terms of negotiations. I think that it's very likely to see Mazraoui and Ligt joining Manchester United this summer. I still don't know about the timing because, the conversation between the two clubs is still not at the final stages. It's a direct negotiation. It's a very positive and confident feeling also on player side. They are both represented by the same agent. And what I can tell you is that even today, when I was checking with my sources, the feeling is very confident and positive. So Matthijs de Ligt is waiting for Man United since June. Then in July, they started the conversation also for Mazraoui. And they believe this is an ideal solution because he's obviously right back, but he can also help as left back eventually, something that he already did with the national team and with Bayern and Ajax in the past. So they believe that these two solutions are perfect, also because these are two players that obviously the manager Erik ten Hag knows so well. So Man United intention is to accelerate. It depends a lot on Bayern. So Man United and also on player side, they are all waiting for Bayern probably to reduce the price for these two players because they've been very clear with Bayern. They've been both clear in telling them that they want to go to Manchester United, and they have an agreement with Manchester United on a 5-year contract, both of them, with an option, same as Joro and Zirkzee. So everything is ready on player side. They've been clear with the club. So basically United are also waiting for two factors. The first one is for Bayern to probably reduce a bit the price tag. They want 50 million euros guaranteed for the Ligt, and for Mazraoui something around 20 million euros. And then the other factor, as we know, is about the outgoings. For Man United, is also important to sell players. And so one is surely Wan-Bissaka in order to bring in Mazraoui, and the other players who could leave in several positions, for example, are McTominay. Let's see what happens with Casemiro. So Man United will be busy on many things in the next days, I think.
And that's the important thing. We have got not that long till the start of the season. We've got injuries to people like Joro. We weren't that impressive on the tour. I think Manchester United fans are just eager to get this deal done this week. Do you sense that will happen, or do you think Man United will be happy to wait till the later stages of the transfer window to get the price they want from Bayern?
Look, at the moment, I can confirm that there is a lot of confidence, but in terms of timing, there is still no confirmation that will be this week. So I can't guarantee that it's going to be this week because a lot depends on Bayern. But remember that this is a domino because also Bayern are waiting for Jonathan Tah to be their new centre-back to replace Matthijs de Ligt. So Man United feel that at some point also Bayern will have to probably reduce their request and try to find common ground and reach an agreement with Manchester United, because in this case, the position of the two players is very clear. They want to play for Man United. They want to go to Man United, and they have no intention to continue at Bayern. There is more to say. Before the Euros and even after the Euros, the message that they got from Bayern, De Ligt and Mazraoui, was quite clear and was something like, okay, this summer you will have the chance to leave because we understand that your desire is to try something different. So now both players are expecting Bayern to go in Manchester United way and try to find an agreement as soon as possible. So could be this week. There will be new contacts for sure, starting already today. So Man United are actively working on these two stories, but a lot depends on Bayern in terms of timing. So let's see. I think probably some patience will be needed, but I think Man United fans can be confident on both De Ligt and Mazraoui.
So in essence, it looks like we'll get the players, but it might take a little bit of time because Manchester United want to get that price down a little bit with Bayern Munich.
Exactly, and Man United want to include it also as part of the negotiation because Bayern always wanted, especially in the case of the Ligt, 50 million euros guaranteed. This has been the biggest issue. In June, in July, they were not changing the price. 50 guaranteed. Man United were starting from something around 30, 35 million euros plus add-ons, so a different structure of the deal. Man United hope that probably Bayern, maybe in the next days, can accept something like maybe some bonuses, some add-ons as part of the structure of the deal, and so they can find an agreement. But there is optimism on Man United side and also on player side because they've been really clear with Bayern.
Do you think it will be a double deal, Fabrizio? Do you think they'll just do both at the same time? Do you think there's a chance that is what Manchester United and Bayern Munich will do just to save each other a bit of time, is just to agree both deals together?
It's possible, but it's not guaranteed. I think a lot will depend on timing. For example, Wan-Bissaka. Maybe if Wan-Bissaka leaves, and joins West Ham already this week. They can accelerate for Mazraoui. It could be easier also in terms of, financial fair play, balance, to have everything in place, and so to let the player complete his move as soon as possible. So I'm not sure that it's going to be a joint transfer, but there is a possibility because they are negotiating at the same time for both players. So I think this is not the biggest issue for Man United. They want both players to join as soon as possible, but they are negotiating for both of them at the same time. And then I think a lot will depend also on the situation of Wan-Bissaka.
Let's talk about the midfield. Ugarte is a player that, very similarly to Ligt and Mazraoui, has those personal terms, wants to come to Manchester United. João Neves is going to be a PSG player. What's the situation with Ugarte? Because again, this is a player that Man United fans would love to have in this week. But again, what is the hold up with that? Is it just the fee? Is it having to sell a player as well?
Is the fee, and is about selling players, because Man United still need to sell some player. They can't only bring in players as they did with Jadon Sancho. You need some outgoing, and so, for example, keep close eye to the situation of McTominay. What I'm hearing is that the original plan was to sell Casemiro, but for Casemiro, as of now, still no proposals on the table. Still nothing concrete from Saudi. Interest, yes, but then, for example, Al Ittihad, who were interested in Casemiro, changed everything. They changed the president. They changed the plan they had with the manager. Had to be Pioli, then is Laurent Blanc. So completely changing the strategy, and this is why Man United never received any fresh bid for Casemiro. So now for McTominay, there is the interest from Fulham. Let's see what the player wants to do. But I think the outgoings are going to be important in terms of timing in order to go for Manuel Ugarte. What we can say is that Ugarte is waiting for United. It's a really similar situation to the Ligt and Mazraoui. Ugarte wants to go to Man United. In this case, the crucial factor, I think, is going to be also the agent, because the agent of Manuel Ugarte is Jorge Mendes. Jorge Mendes is in excellent relationship with Manchester United. If today Lenny Joro is wearing Manchester United shirt and not Real Madrid shirt, is also because Man United had a strong relationship, a good pact with Jorge Mendes, and so that was crucial to reach an agreement and bring Lenny Joro to the club. So I think that this relationship with Mendes will also be important in order to get the green light on Manuel Ugarte. Also, PSG signed João Neves from Benfica, and this is helpful for Manchester United in order to hope for a green light in the next weeks or in the next days for Manuel Ugarte. Again, the player is waiting for United. The player is not making any difference in terms of Champions League or no Champions League football. He wants to wear Manchester United shirt. He wants to try this opportunity, Old Trafford, Premier League. And so basically also on this one, waiting for financials in order to make the deal happen.
If we've got to sell to buy Ugarte, that looks like the only midfielder would be Scott McTominay. And if that is holding up the Ugarte deal, where are we with Scott McTominay and Fulham? Is that any closer than where it was last week? We were awaiting another bid from Fulham, and there's been a bit of uncertainty of whether Ten Hag wants to sell McTominay or whether he wants to go anyway.
Yeah, look, I think the situation, exactly, the final point you mentioned is really important. First of all, Ten Hag is not desperate to sell McTominay. He's a player that he would love to keep in the squad. When he says that in public, is the reality from what I'm hearing. But obviously it depends on the opportunities. If a bid around £30 million guaranteed for Manchester United would be on the table, I think United would be ready to let him go, because in this case would be really helpful in order to accelerate for Manuel Ugarte and to bring in one more midfielder with Ugarte as they want. So that's why for McTominay, they are not desperate to sell him, but if they received a good proposal, he's one of the players who could leave Man United in this final month of transfer window. For Fulham, the interest is really strong. Marco Silva was already able to convince Emil Smith-Rowe, for example, from Arsenal, so he's trying to do exactly the same with Scott McTominay, who probably wanted some different kind of club when he was planning to maybe change. But also in the case of McTominay, he's not desperate to leave Man United, so it has to be the right opportunity, the right project. Let's see if Fulham will be able to do it. The second bid was rejected, £20 million. Man United want £30 million for McTominay, but I think this conversation can continue in the next days because the interest is still there, and so that could be really helpful in order to advance for Manuel Ugarte.
A lot of people in the chat asking about two midfielders before we talk about Sancho, Rabiot and Amrabat. Now, Rabiot is probably an easier answer, Fabrizio, because he's a free agent, not decided what he's doing. Amrabat, if we could get updates on both, we find this really weird. Like, he's on an exercise bike with Man United shorts on, but he left 5 weeks ago and is really a Fiorentina player. And we don't really understand how we get Amrabat unless he's coming in with Ugarte, or is he the alternative to Ugarte?
I'm not sure it's alternative. I think is a different kind of opportunity. Something that is really appreciated is a player who is really appreciated by the manager. Erik ten Hag is a big fan of Amrabat. So I think it depends on the opportunity. At the moment, the full focus is on Ugarte. So Man United want to focus their energy and their money on Manuel Ugarte. Then, if there will be still some space in the midfield and they can have the opportunity to bring in Amrabat, I think it remains an opportunity that they would consider. But also in case, for any reason, the Ugarte deal collapses, Amrabat remains one of the names they have in the list, because basically what happened, Man United didn't want to trigger the buy option clause for Amrabat. They believe that it was too expensive. They know that the player is not going to stay at Fiorentina because Amrabat wants to try something different and is still very keen on returning to Manchester United. So basically United know that they have the possibility to go for Amrabat. They know that the player is keen on the move, but it depends on them. And now the focus of the board is on Manuel Ugarte. Ineos want to sign Manuel Ugarte really strongly. They believe it's a big opportunity. He's the perfect player for the project. Then let's see what happens with Ugarte. Meanwhile, Amrabat is kind of opportunity, can become a priority only in case the Ugarte deal collapses.
And Rabiot, anything on him with Man United?
Well, Rabiot at the moment is a player they discussed with his mother agent several times already years ago, and also this summer they were offered the possibility to go for Adrien Rabiot. At the moment, I'm not aware of anything really advanced on this one. I know that the focus of Man United is on something else. But with free agents, sometimes you can be very fast in the negotiation. It doesn't even need to talk to clubs. So you can agree with the player in few hours and try to close the deal. At the moment, this is not the case for Man United. The position is focused on Ugarte, also because Rabiot is asking for a very important salary. Imagine that Rabiot turned down a salary of 7 million euros net per season, 4 years at Juventus. So he wants more than this, and then there is obviously a signing fee when you sign a free agent. So yes, he's a free agent, but he's an expensive free agent. So that's why Manchester United know that there is this possibility. The player would be super keen on playing in Premier League. It's his dream to be a Premier League player one day. So let's see what happens. But at this point, it's still not something that I'm told is close or imminent. But with Rabiot, really anything can happen.
And with Jadon Sancho, Fabrizio, we know that PSG were looking, it's gone quiet there. Juventus were looking, it's gone quiet there. He's played some games in pre-season, but it'll be difficult for him to play for United when Garnacho, Rashford, Ahmad, Antony's still there. Is he still a player that we should be keeping an eye on in the last few weeks of the window to leave Manchester United?
I think the situation of Sancho is still open. I don't think they are, obviously after there was this change of situation between Ten Hag and Sancho, they are not desperate to find a solution as they were in April, May, June before the summer transfer window, because in that case they were prepared to sell Sancho and find a solution as soon as possible. Now it's different. Now the player is fully integrated to the group, so they want an important proposal to let Jadon Sancho go. I think it's still something around 40-45 million pounds or something in that region. It depends on the opportunities too, because at the moment Juventus, who were among the clubs really interested in Jadon Sancho, are currently no longer in the race, looking at different options. Borussia Dortmund consider this deal too expensive, so I think to see Sancho back at BVB is quite complicated at this point. And then PSG have an interest. Yes, they spoke to the agents of the player, but they never reached out to Manchester United to make a proposal or to open a negotiation. So at the moment, it's still quite on PSG side. Then let's see, I think it's still an open story, because if Man United receive an important proposal for Sancho in the next days or weeks, I think the situation could still be discussed and still be open.
And just quickly, in relation to the left-back situation, we know that Mazraoui could play there. David Hanco has spoken about his move to Atletico Madrid. He's a player that's been linked to us. Are we hearing anything about what is a very important position for Manchester United with regards to how short we were last year? Some would say this is a massive priority to get a left-back in, with Malacia injured and Luke Shaw very injury-prone.
Yeah, for example, we know that Milos Kerkez is one of the players they really appreciate, but at the moment, Bournemouth has no intention to sell the player this summer, so they are making life difficult for Man United and any club interested. I think that from what I'm hearing, this is not a top priority now. So it's something that they want to cover, but now the full focus is on the Ligt, the full focus is on Ugarte, on covering the positions where they really need the signing as soon as possible. And then they believe that if, for example, Mazraoui joins and they will test also him as left back in some opportunities, maybe they could continue with Mazraoui as an option, and then, as you mentioned, Luke Shaw and Malacia, or cover the position with a new left back. But it depends on the funds they will have available closer to the end of the transfer window. Now they want to use the money for players like the Ligt, Mazraoui, Ugarte. The full focus is on these three players on these three positions. Then for the left back, it will be based on opportunities, but it's not something really imminent now.
Fabrizio, absolute legend. Thank you very much for coming on the show. I know you're very, very busy, and I'm hoping you're going to be very, very busy over the next few days saying 3 words. Here we go in relation to Manchester United.
Thank you.
We really do. We do need to get motoring, but thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thanks as always. Ciao, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Fabrizio. So, look, I can see the chat. I know what goes on, and I know people are frustrated. I sense even from Fabrizio, there's a bit of professional frustration because we don't control these things. We don't bring the news. Man United bring the news, and I think that there's quite a lot in there, to be fair, just to unpick. But one word I would take from all of this is desperate. The amount of times Fabrizio said it. The amount of times you say it, it's got different interpretations. We, as a fan base, are desperate for these signings to come in. But when you look at it, Scott McTominay is not desperate to leave Manchester United. Erik ten Hag is not desperate for Scott McTominay to leave Manchester United. And if there's no desperation there, then that doesn't give us the funds to sign Ugarte. So you can see why things are slow when McTominay and ten Hag are not that desperate to part ways. Well, where does the money come from Ugarte? Bayern Munich are not desperate to sell Ligt and Mazraoui for the price we want to pay, and we're not desperate to pay the price that Bayern Munich want. So you have a situation where Mazraoui and Ligt want to join Man United, and Man United want them, and they believe a deal will happen, but we're not going to give Bayern Munich what they want, and Bayern Munich aren't going to give him for what they don't want. So there is no desperation at the moment. That's why these deals aren't happening. Ugarte wants to come to Manchester United, but Manchester United don't want to pay what PSG want, and they have to sell to buy. So there's no desperation there. And yet the other aspect of desperation comes from you and I, the fans, going, well, I'm desperate to beat fucking Fulham, and I'm desperate not to see Casemiro holding the midfield with Scott McTominay or Harry Maguire or Lindelof in that starting lineup, jeopardizing 3 points. So there's a lack of desperation, I think, with regards to Manchester United at the moment. And it is concerning because, as I said before, I think Ineos have the best intentions, but Nice wasn't a rip-roaring success. And saving £5 million here sounds very much like the sort of thing the Glazers used to do. It sounds to me like we're prioritising saving 10 million over actually starting the season prepared. And look, some of you might say, well, no. I agree with that. I agree with that. You know, we shouldn't be being held to ransom. We shouldn't get these players in. Let's save 5 million here, because that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. Bayern Munich want £42 million for De Ligt. We probably want to pay that with add-ons, you know, up to £42 million. We're not actually miles and miles apart. So I think that with regards to that, the desperation thing is very, very clear when you look at what's going on at the moment. And whilst we are close, it might be, like I said last night and this morning, it's a big week. Here we go, will be coming, but there are 3 weeks left in this transfer window, and Manchester United may well be in a position where they're going to dig their feet in and jeopardize points. I mean, literally, I've just recorded today's podcast, which is a Premier League podcast, and looking at the start to the season for everybody, you know, a third of the season is gone. Sorry, a tenth of the season is gone by the end of this month. You play 3 Premier League games. We can't walk into the start of the season with, I mean, it makes me want to throw up the idea that we start Casemiro at holding midfield, or we play Maguire next to Martinez against Fulham. Oh, maybe let's just give Fulham the fucking points then. Let's not bother buying De Ligt and Ugarte. I mean, if we don't need these players for the game against Fulham, why are we fucking bothering buying them in the first place? And that mentality, I just don't understand. Oh, we need to save 5 million on the De Ligt deal, so we'll do without him against Fulham. Well, let's save 42 million and not buy him at all then. If he's not important for Fulham, you know, if we're not valuing the Fulham game, why are we buying him in the first place? And it's not like we haven't made these mistakes before. It's very, very frustrating. And I'm tired of the football club being slow on transfers. And we are slow. Again, unfortunately, we're very, very slow. We've got 3 deals lined up and we need to move quicker. Because if Sir Jim Ratcliffe's serious about doing well at Manchester United, and he's serious about being a lifelong Manchester United fan, then why is he not serious about the game against Fulham a week on Friday in making us ready to start the season. It's just, you know, they're meant to be something new. They're meant to be a new vision. You send out most of the players from last season to start that game against Fulham. That's not a new vision for Manchester United, is it? Welcome to Members Club, Farhad. And Mr. Ben Gibbons says, great that incoming's looking so confident, but seems we've got no clue where the outgoings are currently. Few names out there with no one close to a deal. I think the problem is cash flow, as we've said before. And I think that Man United... I mean, look, the update on Ligt and Mazraoui is that Man United are waiting for Bayern Munich to reduce their price. That's dangerous. That's not in our hands then. We're basically saying to Bayern, we want these players. They want to come. We're waiting for you to reduce the price. That scares me because that could go to August the 31st. That looks like United are saying, we're not going to pay your price. If you don't bring it down, we'll keep waiting because the players want to come to us. Dangerous game to play. Really dangerous when you're so shit like we were last year to be saying we can wait till the end of August, by which time we'll have played Liverpool as well. We're happy to play without Ligt, Mazraoui and Ugarte for the first 3 games of the season. I don't get that mentality. But then again, it's quite consistent because I don't get the mentality of picking Wan-Bissaka on Saturday night when you're trying to sell him either. There seems to be some unnecessary risks going on around the club and how it's acting, and maybe the Glazers are still involved. I don't know, but on Amrabat, quite interesting. But I think the midfield situation, very good update from Fabrizio about the change at Al Etihad. They've changed their manager, they've changed their ownership, etc. They were looking at Casemiro. Man United were looking to sell Casemiro. We know that, but Saudi Arabia are not interested in him, which has left United down financially and stuck with a midfielder that they don't want. Therefore, McTominay is the player that they can sell, but there's some indecision about that. I think that's where Ineos have got to step up and say, look, we are in charge here. Whether Erik ten Hag wants to sell McTominay or not, or whether McTominay wants to go or not, that's where, if you're Dan Ashworth or Berardi, you step in and say, we're selling him. Is he a first team player? No. There's 25 million pounds there, Eric. You're not keeping 25 million pounds on the bench when we can use that to bring Ugarte in. He's getting sold. That's where you step in and you run the football club, because I'd be saying you want Ugarte, you want Ligt, but you don't want to sell McTominay, who's a bench player. He's the only midfielder we can sell. You bought Casemiro 2 years ago. I know you didn't give the wage, but you bought Casemiro, so you can crack on with him. We're selling McTominay to get Ugarte. That's what we're going to do. And that's what I think needs to happen. Because what is, again, very clear, we asked about Jadon Sancho, is that people don't want our players. We need to raise money. We need to sell to buy, but people don't want our players. So if I've got 7 players I want to sell and nobody wants them, but 8, 9 and 10 people do, I've got to sell 8, 9 and 10 because they will bring money in. I can't do anything about players that I can't sell. You know, PSG didn't speak to Man United about Sancho. Juventus haven't followed up their interest in Sancho because he's massively overpriced. So we can't sell players. So we've got to sell what we can sell, because at the moment we're drifting. You know, we are drifting in relation to what our plan is for the season. Strategically, what is our plan for this season at the moment? Because it looks very similar to last year. Rasmus is injured. Yoro is injured. Xerxes is an addition, but the midfield's exactly the same and the defense is exactly the same. And that's not a plan going into the season. And anybody who's trying to be half glass full, I respect it. I really, really do. But Fulham played well against us last season and they're no mugs. So there is this, there's almost this assumption that we'll beat Fulham. And I think we've got a good chance. It's the opening game of the season, you know, positivity. But there's also a chance that we fuck it up. So, you know, I think where I was this morning saying it's a big week ahead, let's hope we can get some stuff done. I think we can. But having had Fabrizio on, there is no guarantee anything will happen this week. I still think it will. There's a big week ahead of us. Man United will still be working hard. But the big question I asked is, will it be a double deal for Ligt and Mazraoui? And again, there's no real commitment on that, because if Wan-Bissaka goes, we might just go and do Mazraoui separately and wait for Ligt till the end of the month. And I don't like an underperforming team not being ready for the start of the season. And we're not ready for the start of the season. And that is the fact. We've got Liverpool at home in game 3, and we're not ready to start this season at this moment in time. Just because we have new people doesn't mean our reputation on the market or our finances change. Feeling already down, says DK. Need to improve our negotiation position, only improving on the pitch. Elliot says, we got good people in the office for once, but we always felt the first 2 years were mission impossible for them because of mistakes in the past. And Frankie de Jong's wages are 250k a week over 7 years. He's only got 46k in his first. I don't know what that's all about on. I don't think we're going to go for Frankie de Jong. Office topic, Mark. What's your view on the potential Snapdragon Stadium name? Yeah, so apparently Snapdragon want to call Manchester United's Old Trafford the Snapdragon Stadium. I mean, if you didn't think that was going to happen under this new ownership, you're a fool. I'm against it. But, you know, Old Trafford's not going to exist anymore, is it? Old Trafford's gone. It's going to get knocked down. The new stadium, you may as well call it what you bloody like. It won't be Old Trafford, will it? So great that Ian Cummings looking so confident, says Mr. Ben. We've done that one. Thank you. Got a bit of an update coming in here. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is demanding a multi-million pound payoff from Manchester United to leave the club this summer. West Ham are willing to meet United's valuation for Wan-Bissaka, but they cannot afford his huge wage demands, leaving the deal in limbo. I mean, again, it's like, I've seen this film before. Dan says McTominay doesn't improve as get him gone. This time next week, it'll be the same squad, says Dan Davey. I've seen this film before with exactly the same club. It's like deja vu. It's just a different player. Last year, West Ham were willing to give us £30 million for Harry Maguire, but Harry Maguire wanted to be paid off because his wages were 190k a week, and Man United said no. So you're telling me the same thing's happening again. West Ham are willing to pay for Wan-Bissaka, but they can't pay his wages. So Wan-Bissaka wants paying off by Man United. Well, surprise, surprise. He's on 100 grand a week. He's got a year left on his contract. If Man United don't figure these things out quick, it shouldn't be coming as a shock. Maguire did the same last year. He said, I'll go to West Ham, but they're only going to give me 100 grand a week. I'm on 190 grand a week here, and I've got 3 years left on my deal. I want a payoff. And he's right. Why should players leave Man United to help Man United out? They've got a contract with a lot of money. Wan-Bissaka's right as well. He's on 100 grand a week and he's got a year left on his deal. Why should he go to West Ham and take a pay cut? We have to factor this in. We've got to factor. I don't disagree with Maguire last year, and I don't disagree with Wan-Bissaka. If he's going to be on 50 grand or 60 grand a week at West Ham, why should he take a 40 grand pay cut? He's got a year left. He could wait a year, earn 100 grand a week, and then next summer be free and earn massive money because he's not going to cost a transfer fee. I mean, literally, Wan-Bissaka could say, I'm not leaving. I'll wait here a year. I'll earn 100 grand a week. And then next year I'll go to West Ham on a free. And instead of giving Man United 18 million, you can give me 5 million as a signing on fee. So we're not in power here. I don't know why we're flexing like we are. We need to get rid of players and take losses on them to get them out. And if Ineos didn't figure that out when they came into the football club, they're bloody stupid. As somebody said, you can bring Omar Barada in, you can bring Dan Ashworth in, but they can't turn water into wine. The bottom line is we've got players on wages people don't want to pay. So if you want them to go, you've got to take a hit. I don't know why people haven't figured this out. I've got no problem with Wan-Bissaka wanting a payoff if he wants one. I had no problem with Maguire wanting a payoff as well. I was frustrated at the time, but I understand it now. And it's all right sitting there saying, we will get De Ligt and we will get Mazraoui, but we're not going to pay what you want, Bayern. Well, what if Bayern wait till August the 31st and we still end up paying what they want and we lose to Fulham and we lose to Liverpool and we're 6 points off? Was it worth saving 5 million to be mid-table with load of pressure? We need to fucking get moving. We do. We need to move. And if we didn't have the money, then they should have been more honest, shouldn't they? Great content as usual. I will say we need Ugarte, De Ligt and Mazraoui ASAP, says the crazy Irishman. What about Shaw as centre-back and Mazraoui at left-back for Fulham? We don't need Shaw at centre-back, man, because we're not going to play with two left-footed centre-backs, are we? Martinez will be fit. You don't need Luke Shaw to play left centre back. We've got Martinez. It'll be Maguire at right back. What else? Amrabat. It sounds like Amrabat would be supplementary to Ugarte. It's an opportunity that United are looking at. Rabiot is not going to happen. We asked about Rabiot, but that's not going to happen. I think, in essence, the transfer window is in two phases right now. You've got this focus on Ugarte, Ligt, and Mazraoui, and that's what Man United are focused on. And if and when they're done, they'll look at what else can be done in the second phase. Now, ideally, those 3 players are signed in the next week, and that gives you 2.5 weeks to look at the left back, look at selling some other players. But listening to what Fabrizio said there about the left back, it looks like it's not a priority at the moment, and it's an area that United will look at in the back arse of the window. But that's dependent on phase 1 being done in the next couple of weeks, so that you've got time in the back end of the window to look at things like left back. If phase 1 ends up taking till August the 31st, we won't have time to look at anything else. So I think at the moment, we need some movement. We need some movement. These guys can see McTominay ending up at Fenerbahce with Jose. McTominay wants someone bigger than Fulham, Villa, Newcastle, Spurs, West Ham, and he'll go, says Neil Curran. Scott McTominay's not going to Turkey, mate. Nothing against Turkey. I think it would be a good move for him, but they don't have the money. Fenerbahce don't have £30 million for Scott McTominay. Galatasaray don't have £30 million for Scott McTominay. They don't have that fund. And we can't let McTominay go to Turkey for 10 million because we need the 25 to help us buy Ugarte. Vita says, these guys in the office know the game, Mark. What should they do? They are surely trying to do the best for Man United. The old regime killed us. The old regime's still here, mate. They're hand in hand on the same fucking Zoom call. Don't differentiate the old regime with the new regime. You're acting like Joel Glazer's not in charge of the football club still. They're still on the same fucking table. They're still on the same Zoom meeting. There is no differential. There is only a football club that's owned by the Glazers with Ineos having 28%. And we can't differentiate. They stood next to it at the FA Cup final. Like, we need to see something different. And at the moment, we're seeing something very, very similar, where we're showing zero urgency in relation to starting this season well. We are up against Newcastle, Spurs, Aston Villa, Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal, and Manchester City for the top 4. There are 7 clubs going for top 4. And at the moment, we are no further forward in saying we'll definitely get the top 4. Like, how we think we can start the season how we are, and it won't matter, is incredible to me. By the end of August, you played 3 Premier League games. That's a 10th of the season gone. And we're basically going, yeah, well, we'll get on with what we've got. We'll get on with what we've got. It'll be fine. It'll be fine to play Fulham at home, Brighton away, and Liverpool at home with what we've got. Because it's worked really well in the past, hasn't it? What we've got really does fill you with confidence. I mean, 9 points. Easy work. 9 points. Absolutely fine. I'm not so sure. I'm really not so sure. We need to get working. If they wait till the 31st, the window will be closed as it's the 30th at 11 p.m, says Glenn C. I thought it was the 1st, actually, but I will double check that as well. Ivor says it's not a 10th of the transfer of the season. Yes, it is. Oh, all right, mate. Sorry for being, it's an 11th then. I mean, there's 38 Premier League games and 3 games is 3 games. So 10 times 3 is 38. So, sorry, 10 times 3 is 30. What I'm saying is 3 games of the season isn't like there's another 100 games to play. There's 38 games. And when 3 games have gone, 10% of that would be 3.8. So we're not quite there either. But, not all of us have done a fucking degree in mathematics. What my point is, it's a significant amount of the season gone when you don't get your transfers in for the first 3 games of the season. And it sends a very, very, very bad message to your fan base that you're not serious if you're not interested in being ready. And one of those games is Liverpool at home. There's only 2 of those, Ivor. There's only 2 of those. So Liverpool at home we're quite happy to play Maguire at centre-back and Casemiro in the holding midfield position against Liverpool, our biggest rival at home. We're quite happy to avoid that game, saving 5 million at a PSG and Bayern Munich. That's my point. That's my point. We're happy to play Liverpool without Ugarte and Ligt. We're happy to play Casemiro and Maguire. 2 players that we want to sell. If we're not going to be serious at the start, how do you expect us to be serious at the end? You go into the season with a momentum and a mentality. And at the moment, we're not serious. We're not serious. And I guarantee you Sir Jim Ratcliffe feels the same, because he's a lifelong Man United fan and he'll feel exactly the same as you. He'll be frustrated that we're not getting the deals done to start this season with momentum. At the moment, everything's very flat, but it can change quickly. And I'm just hoping it will change very quickly. And it's just a bit of a slow start to the week. Anyone blaming the players for not leaving is actually dumb. It's so bad. We have a problem even selling our best players because of our wages, says Elliot. Cormac says you missed my super chat. Well, I won't have Cormac. I've just not read it yet. How much for Pellistri, Mabry, etc., says Anders. 15 million tops, and we're not doing anything with that. Cormac says, how boring does it get for you having to repeat the same stories every day? We need to get our ducks in a row fast. Well, Cormac, that's quite a fair. I mean, I don't get bored of sitting talking to you lot. I've been doing it for 10 years and there's been worse eras than this. In fact, I would say it's the opposite of boring, because it's an opportunity to vent frustration. If I wasn't live with you talking about how frustrated I am about our ineptitude in the transfer window, then I'd be sat around, kicking a fucking football around, getting frustrated. So I'm not bored of talking about Manchester United. I've been doing it all my life. I'm frustrated that this happens every single year. I'm frustrated that I hoped that this summer transfer window would be different. And I hope that things still can be different. And I think they will be different in the future, but it's the now that matters. I mean, it's all right saying in 2 years' time it will be a lot better. Ten Hag might be sacked by then. We might be looking at another rebuild. It's all right saying in 2 years' time we won't be stuck with players on big wages. But in 2 years' time, we might have a new manager who's got to clear out a load of players that don't need to be cleared out now. This is why in football, you can't ever plan for the future. You've got to plan for the now. Because in 2 years' time, we might not have a player on 200 grand a week, but we might have a player who is, looking at different, we don't have a manager who's looking to get rid of Rasmus and Martinez and Bruno and everybody else. So there's always work to do. You've got to work within the situation that you're in. And if we're not willing to do that, then we will stand still. And if we stand still, then other clubs are ambitious and will look to come at us as well. So I think that my point is we must always demand more, because if we don't, then we're going to struggle, aren't we? Simple as that. But things can change very, very quickly. Harvey says, why do you usually palm Fabrizio off on Beth? Okay, I think I'm going to end the stream now before I start saying things that people say I get moody about. Beth's a fantastic up-and-coming talent on the channel, and letting her interview Fabrizio, it works well. Or normally on a Monday, I do the football filling with Ben Foster and I'm recording the podcast, so I'm not actually available to do it as well. And the United stand is not just Mark Goldbridge. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Absolute legends in the chat. We're back at 8 o'clock if nothing happens before. Really excited. Hopefully things will happen this week. Stupid question, says Bike, guys. Be careful, Bike. You'll upset the chat for being a little bit honest. But apparently your question was stupid, Harvey. That was from Bike, guys. It wasn't from me. Radcliffe has no right to be sad. He knew this would happen when he decided to keep the Glazers, says Jeff. Thank you, everybody. Let's hope we get some positive breaking news in the next few hours, because we desperately need it. Take care. Make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe. I'll speak to you all in a bit.